Alright guys, coming at you with another tutorial. Gonna get a little bit heavier, a little bit deeper in our thinking. We're gonna shade a box today, and this is an open box. Let's go to the document camera. So we've kind of been working on these drawings for a little while. You can see here uh, that my shadow seems to be following the rays of light that I imagine are coming off of this imaginary light source that I've got. So this time we're going to focus on this guy. And what's tricky about this guy is there's this interior space that we're going to have to consider how the light is hitting this, not only this box, but then also the interior of that space. So I'm going to start with kind of creating a little bit of a drop shadow. What's important with this box is my drop shadow should not be as long as this other box. And this box, the drop shadow is kind of unfinished. Probably need to kind of think about what that shape ought to look like a little bit more. But let's focus on this guy. So I'm gonna start actually by imagining. So I'm imagining that those rays of light are coming. I feel like there's a short drop shadow here. Rays of light are also hitting over here. So I don't know, I might see just a little bit of a drop shadow there. But I'm imagining kind of how this, so I'm just defining this area. And I'm gonna shade it kind of lightly to start with. Imagining that light is creating that shadow there. I find a lot of times when I'm making marks, whether it's with a pen or a pencil, if I'm pulling that pencil towards myself, so you notice right now the pencil is moving towards my body, that I'm a little more controlled in the marks that I'm making. So you'll notice that's why I turned my piece of paper so that I could control this pencil more. I'm going to just kind of finish up what I would call the beginning of this drop shadow. A couple of things about a drop shadow. If you study them, let me just create one real quick. So I've got this, we've looked at this cylinder shape before. You can see my drop shadow. A lot of times when you see that drop shadow, let me get these other guys out of the way too, or the other images out of the way so you can just see the drop shadow. The space closest to the object is generally the darkest. It sometimes will get lighter as it comes away. And then out here at the end, it's not a hard edge. So you can see like right here there's a very hard edge. Out here the edge gets softer. And depending on your light source, you'll sometimes have a very soft edge or hardly any edge at all. It'll just fade until the shadow just kind of disappears. So it's kind of an important thing to know about as you're considering your drop shadow. So I've kind of created my drop shadow there. I'm probably going to come back eventually and make this space closer to the box darker. Now again, I'm using my imagination to think about how light is hitting this box. I know that this side of the box, the side that's closest to us, should be dark. So I'm going to go ahead and shade that. Got a nice little dark shade there. A lot of times the shadow on this, the darkest shadow on the actual object should match or be very close to the shadow that is the drop shadow. Sometimes those kind of just blend right together. So now I've created that. I know then also, so this one also is kind of like this edge. It's not, no light should be hitting this part of the box. So I'm going to go ahead and shade that, and I'm going to try to match the shade that I just did. So I'm going to make that kind of darker. So yeah, so now I know also that part of this edge should not see light. So light is going to be hitting part of this, but part of this, the part that's closest to that edge that I just created, should not be getting light on it. So I'm going to do another one of those kind of faded shadows. So it's dark there. It's going to get, I'm going to maybe even move my hand back on the pencil so that I have a much lighter touch. And I'm just going to barely make a mark there. Now, so again here, I think I might even come back. I'll probably do a little bit more blending just to even this out. But I'm thinking again that this part that's closest to this inside edge of the box should be darker. Now the inside, the flat inside bottom of the box, I know there should be some sort of a drop shadow here. So I'm marking right now where that drop shadow should be. The drop shadow is created by this part of the box, so the light is causing, this part of the box is causing the light to not hit the inside bottom of the box. So I'm going to shade that. Now I'm going to make it a little bit darker here close. And then I might kind of stop there. Now, again, so if this light, I'm imagining that ray of light coming across here, it should be hitting that far side of the box, but this side of the box isn't getting very much light. So I'm going to shade it, but it needs to be lighter than this. This should be the darkest spot. And I can come back and add another layer here if I need to. But for now, I'm just going to give this like a light shade across. Notice how I'm trying to control my pencil so that my shading here stays inside the lines. Now my concern as I'm looking at this is that this shade and this shade are very close to each other. They're very similar, so I'm just going to make this shade darker. Another layer of graphite, pressing a little bit harder as I make this mark. I should be able to achieve that. Looks pretty good. Same thing in here, so this should match this, so I'm going to give this guy another layer. So this kind of attention to small details will really make or break a drawing, especially if you're trying to make it kind of realistic looking. You really got to pay close attention to these different light shades that you've got. I think my drop shadow could probably be a little bit darker. I'm going to, whenever I make a drawing, especially a graphite drawing like this, if you have white space, it doesn't really exist most of the time. Even if I was going to draw a ceiling of a house and the ceiling itself was painted white, if you look closely at a ceiling like that or a wall, you'll notice that very rarely is it just white. It would have to be totally lit up, entirely lit for it to be white like that. So it just added a little bit of some color there, so it becomes a little more realistic. I'm going to come back again, just adding a little more detail to my drop shadow, because part of it I think is a little bit too light. And now I think I'm feeling pretty good about my box. Remembering that rule that I shared earlier of the drop shadow close to the object should be nice and dark is helpful here. So I'm going to just add a little bit more darkness to that. Now we're taking that box and we've made it kind of come alive in the third dimension. Thanks for watching.